Hi guys, so let's talk about how to find a comic book artist. And now I know I did a video about this last year, but I wanted to update it purely because a lot of the information that I gave in that video is still actually valid. But a lot of the websites that I used to use to find my artist collaborators are probably not as relevant as they are nowadays. And I'll be honest with you, literally this month, January 2022, if you can believe it, I've actually gone out and found a new collaborator that I've never met before, I've never worked before. So I wanted to share that process with you about how I found that artist. And if it worked for me, it will probably work for you. So I did what I always do. I go to websites like Pencil Jack as well, and I look at the artists that are posting their work on there and who are looking for paid gigs. Unfortunately, you start to see a lot of the same artists over and over again posting their work, that kind of thing. Couldn't really find a style that matched the vision of the comic that I have in my head. So next stage for me is I always go to Twitter, which I use quite a lot to find collaborators, and I've met some wonderful partners on there over the years. And as I did, as you can see on the screen, I always send a tweet, saying there's a paid gig, I'm looking for a new artist collaborator, that kind of thing. And my DMs are open. It got 148 retweets, and my inbox was completely inundated with responses from some amazing artists. And even though I'm not working with them on this particular comic, I've started to build relationships and networks with those people that I think, do you know what, if I have a book that fits their style in my head, I will use them in future books. So it's not a waste of time. But again, wasn't really finding the style of the comic that I wanted in my head. And I know that sounds really finicky, but I'm quite hands-on when it comes to selecting the art styles for the book that I want to work with. And that's not to say that I'm not open to other interpretations of different art styles, but in my head, I know what I want, but I also know more what I don't want, and if that makes sense. And again, it's not saying that some an artists are bad or anything like that. It's just not right for this book, because as I've done a video before, it's always about the right artist for the right book. So as I said, I was inundated with responses, and I responded to each and every one, because if someone's taken the time to DM me, I always respond. But in that great smorgasbord of great artists that were reaching out, there really wasn't the right artist for this particular book that I'm working on. And then serendipitously, a hashtag in January appeared that it does every January, and I'm sure it appears 3 or 4 times a year as well. It was Portfolio Day in January, and even though I see it in my timeline quite a bit, I always see artists sharing their work, which is lovely to see. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna delve a little bit deeper into it, because I had the epiphany that I have a network. I've got X amount of followers on Twitter, and if they retweet that I'm looking for an artist, it's going to reach a bit of a wider circle. But if I was a fisherman, I'm still only fishing in a small part of the ocean, and there's a lot of uncharted waters out there. There's a lot of great artists that I don't know about, I've never met, I don't have a relationship with. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to delve deeper into Portfolio Day to see, if there are any artists out there that may want to work for me on this next book. And I'm so glad that I did. Okay, so some of you may be watching this thinking, Matt, Portfolio Day has been and gone. Why would I search an old hashtag looking for comic book collaborators? Well, do you know what? You'd be surprised how many people are still posting their portfolios hit end of January now, where the day's been and gone. And doesn't mean you can't go back in time and look at other artist collaborators that you might want to potentially work with. But the only problem with using this hashtag is you are going to get an entire smorgasbord of potential artists. And I'm not just talking comics, I'm talking fine art, I'm talking about print, I'm talking about clay. It's art. So what you need to do is you need to drill down your search, so you are not wasting your time looking at art that's not going to be suitable for the comics medium. So what I tend to do is, in the search engine, obviously put hashtag portfolio day, and then I just type comics in there. And then what you are going to get is you are going to get a list of so many, literally thousands and thousands of thousands of comic artists that are sharing their portfolios online under this hashtag that you could potentially work with. This is where the hard work actually begins, because what you need to do is you need to go through thousands of posts and try and find an art style that you like, and try and get hold of that artist and see if they might consider working with you. Now, first thing you need to do is, if and when you find an art style that you like, you need to go to their profile page. And if that artist DMs are open, send them a polite DM saying that I saw your post on Portfolio Day. Are you open to a paid collaboration? And then start speaking to them that way. Hopefully they'll get back to you soon. You can start building a relationship with them, and you can have a chat about, potentially working together. Now, what I have found now, if you are an artist watching this, what I suggest you do, and I am not telling you how to run your Twitter account, I promise you, but if I was an artist and I was looking for work out there, I would make my pinned tweet of my profile at least, 4 images of sequential comic book art, and I would put in my DMs are open for work, or I would put my email address, because you would be surprised how many artists that I looked at. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy going through the hashtag looking at some amazing art, but you would be surprised how many artists don't have their contact details on there. And I found this with my new collaborator as well. His DMs weren't open. I followed him. I did not get a follow back, which is absolutely fine, because, some people don't do follow for follow and stuff like that. And that's not what I was after. But his website was there. So I had to reach through him via his website. And that's what I did. We started talking. We came to an arrangement. He did a test page for me. And now we are working on a comic. Now, the only caveat, because I love saying the word caveat, of trying to find an artist this way is you're going out of your network of friends and creators that you know. So you're potentially working with someone that you've never spoke to before. Now, as a little bit of due diligence, me personally, what I do is when I find an artist that I would potentially like to work with on Twitter, sounds a bit sneaky, but I will have a little bit of a look at their timeline and just make sure, one, they're not an arsehole, and two, that they don't get into petty squabbles or anything like that on Twitter, because the collaborators I want to work with, all I want to work with is are positive, good people. So that's what I would say as well. Just do a little bit of due diligence. If you do find an artist that you'd like to work with, before you send them a message to work with you, potentially work with you, just have a look and make sure that they're a good egg. And, if you do end up working together, it's going to be a good collaboration, rather than people that like to argue and stuff like that. So hopefully this has helped. Again, this is exactly what I've done this month. So, if it's worked for me, it's worked for you. So hopefully you'll go out there and find your artist collaborators. I will see you in the next one. Take care.